G'day guys! Today we'll be going through basic texturing. Now, with what I mean by basic texturing, well, each geometry, your default geometry when you load it up is all glossy. What is glossy? Glossy is a metal or a shiny like material. Pretty much anything that is metal, plastic. So what are the properties in Glossy? Well, first off is that you can change the color in Glossy. Now, you have these certain properties in this Glossy preset. What's the meaning and what can these options do? Well, the Specular is pretty much making it much more chrome. If you put it right up, there's no like, it has its own color. There's no cancellation of its own color. If I put it all the way up, its own color is totally, the specular is pretty much cancelling its own color and just reflecting all of the surrounding materials in. This is pretty good for pretty much very shiny, like mirrors. It's pretty good for mirrors and other shiny objects. Now let's just put that around here. What does roughness do? Roughness is pretty much making it works like specular, but it keeps its own color. So for instance, if I put roughness all the way up, and if I put this around here, it's reflecting, 100% reflecting its surrounding materials and light. It's sucking up all the other light rays. Now if I put it all the way down, it's not. It's pretty much diffuse, well, almost diffuse. So roughness is making it more glossy. The next thing is film width. What is film width? Film width is a sort of material property that creates this result. Let me just put this to white. This is good for making soap, camera film, and gasoline when you see it in water. What does film index do? Film index is the scaling of film width. So if I put it right up, so let's just put it to a very, around there, around there. It's pretty much zooming in on the scaling of the material of the film width. Very handy. So let's just put those down to 0. Put this to white. Now, what's bump? Bump is a textured-based shadows. I'll go over that in my intermediate or image-based texturing, and the same goes with normal. Bump and normal are pretty much the same, but I think that normal is more efficient. Sorry for my spelling. Is more efficient for based shadows on textures. Opacity is pretty much the visibility of your object. For some reason the shadows still stay there, but yep, visibility, you can have it half, full, 100%. And your smoothing is pretty much your texture being smoothed. See, it's really rigid lines here. If you press that, it's all smoothed. Okay, so that is Glossy, the Glossy preset. Now, there are two more. Yes, two more. The next is, now, if you didn't know, sorry I didn't bring this up earlier, but there's this button here called the Enable Disable Material Picking Mode. If you click it, and you click an object, it will show up with your current, it will show up with the textured material. If I change this to red and green, it will click on that certain material. So now, if I click on here, pan around over to here, now let's change this to a diffuse. What is diffuse? Diffuse is pretty much it's like paper, but with no transmission. So It's just a plain simple color, no reflection, nothing. It's just a same plain simple texture to it. This could be good for blue tack, walls, paper, cardboard, sheets, cloth. Options here are bump and normal, which we'll get along soon, and the Audacity. Now there's this option here called Emission, which is pretty much mesh-based lighting, but again, this is just basic texturing. We'll get on that in another tutorial, and that's in the Diffuse preset. Now, the next is the glass. Okay, so the specular material setting. Specular is the glass material. It is the glass, water, with transmission. That's pretty much what color it would be. Very good for making ocean scenes and water scenes. Next is specular. What does specular mean? Specular is pretty much the amount of light that gets, or the amount of light that gets sucked in or sucked out of it. As you can see, it's very dark here, but if you put that up, it will allow more light to pass through and to reflect off, which is very much more shiny and helpful. Index is pretty much the light that's been distorted inside of it. So as you can see here, there's like you can see a little bit of it going through, but not much. It's pretty much opening the gateway to allowing all of that light getting passed through. And over here is like nothing. It's going straight past. There's no barriers. There's like, it's just nothing. It's just looks very unrealistic. But if you slowly put that through, you'll start getting a more realistic, detailed image of it. Film with an index is pretty much the same as I said before. That soapy, gasoline type material. Roughness is pretty much the blurriness of the glass. This can be very useful for some cabinet materials I've seen. It blurs the index and the specularity out. Right there, it's totally visible, totally clear. If I put that, it gets much more blurrier. It's kind of a translucent material if you look at it, and fully black, so no light is being passed through, and that's roughness. Now, dispersion. Dispersion is a very interesting material. It's pretty much the separation of light into its different colored rays. What do I mean by that? Is I have a few examples here. See, light passes in, goes through its specular, and comes out as a rainbowish color. Here's some of it being passed out, and I have a few other examples. Here, these are with the diamond textures. As you can see, the dispersion is showing up in the different geometry cuts here. And here's a more close-up version. As you can see the dispersion fall off here and here. Here's a more better version of it. It's been passed out through here. Now, set up again, sorry. Now, with the amount of dispersion, anything, I remember Terrence saying that anything that's like at 0.1 or anything, I think he said something about 0.06 and 0.01 is nothing. There's no material that has that amount, so it's pretty much around here, 0 to 0.05. And yeah, very fascinating. So that is pretty much the overview of basic texturing. You can get a lot of stuff achieved with just basic texturing. You can add a lot of parameters and stuff in. So yes, next will be image-based texturing, and hopefully they'll be very fun and helpful.